The Jesse Miller Show.
All right, thank you guys for the awesome audience response. Audible wows, that's always good. So we're gonna break the rest of the show down into two segments now, okay? The first segment are a couple of vital operations in the camera. So once you finally get your hands on the 7D, say you, I don't know, rent it from Midtown Video, you're gonna want to know a couple of things. We're gonna step you through the most vital. We're not gonna go too in depth because, you could go on forever doing that. After, we're going to talk about a couple of key accessories to turn the camera from a digital SLR camera into something that you can actually use in the studio or in a man-on-the-street type of thing. So, here is my camera, Canon 7D. I'm going to flip it on. You'll notice I've got an HDMI connector. Our audience will be able to see our little monitor here as I step you through some of the menus. Right off the bat, you're going to want to know about white balance and ISO. A lot of complaints of the previous version, for instance, from the 5D or digital SLR video cameras in general, people were having trouble getting a manual ISO and changing the white balance manually. A lot of times it was stuck in auto or you just couldn't get around, so we're going to step you through some of those things today. Something you're going to notice is that when I am in 1080, 1920 by 1080, 24p, I've got a standard definition crop on the monitor. All right? Now, initially I thought that's all we had, but it turns out you actually do get a live high definition output. If you jump into the menu and change your video settings to 30 frames a second, for some reason it can handle 30 frames a second in full HD. If you were close enough, you'd notice 1080 60i right here. Whoa. All right, well, that's funny. It's playing tricks on me now. Anyhow, every now and then I can get it to give me a full 1080 60i output, and every now and then I can't. I guess that's still up for debate. But let's get back to the camera settings, okay? As I mentioned, two major important features: controlling your white balance and controlling your ISO. I'm more of a video guy. I'm used to people calling it gain, but your guys with the film backgrounds or your guys with the camera backgrounds, ISO is the sensitivity level of your film. So when it gets really dark, you crank the ISO up. In video, we might call it gain. It's not exactly the same, but it's extremely related. And let me show you. One nice thing that Canon did for us is give us these two most important features, the white balance and the ISO, directly on little buttons on the camera. So, can you see where we're at here? If I hit this white balance button, you notice I'm already in the white balance field. And there's a little rolling wheel right at my pointer that allows me to switch through it. Okay, we're on a thumb wheel here. So I can switch between a couple of the presets that they want, but really what you're going to want to do is get into custom and jump in here and change your white balance. You see it coming up and down? So we're inside. I'm going to go down to a 32 tungsten, and easy as pie, right? If I walked outside and it was bright daylight, I can easily slide it right up to a 5500. Inside it looks orange, but the point is, if you wanted to get manual control of your ISO, you stick your camera in manual mode, which is an M on the power switch here. Okay, here is your dial that's going to change whether you're an automatic or a manual. All right, you see that I've got it set to manual right here. It's tough to see it anyway. When you're in manual, you've got full control of your ISO and your white balance. Nothing to fear. There are rumors out there that, oh, I can't get it out of auto ISO. This is how it's done. We stick it in manual. You push your quick white balance function, and you can slide over to K and dial it in manually. Yeah? Cool. Next, 2 buttons over is the ISO button. Sorry, it's hard to see that, but I'm going to hit ISO, and now I've got a whole range, right, from 100, although you don't really want to go lower than 200, but from 100 to 6400 ISO. And you'll notice that in ISO, as I crank it around, the image gets brighter and grainier. That's why I sort of relate it to gain on a video camera, right? But when we were at that Santa's Enchanted Forest, we locked it into an 800 ISO. So I'd hit ISO button, locked it into 800, and away we went. The camera never switched ISOs on us. We had it in manual the whole time, and it was locked down. Perfect, beautiful. So apart from just these quick buttons on the front of the camera, it's got a pretty nice menu system. If I can direct your attention right here, I'm going to hit menu, and you'll notice that my image is no longer live, right? So here we are in the menu settings. 2 important menu settings you're going to want to know is your camera format. So we jump into, using this finger wheel, let's call it. I got a finger wheel here and a thumb wheel here. Canon's got two different names for them, but this is where my pointer finger is and this is where my thumb is. So on my finger wheel, I'm going to jump into camera settings, and you'll notice when I change the thumb wheel, I can go right down to movie record size. Movie record size. Now that's where you can change whether you're in 1080, 30p, or 24p, or if you're in 720, 60, or even standard definition. I would never recommend shooting in standard definition. Here we are, it's 2009. Shoot some high definition, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're all with me. I know you're all with me. So you might say to yourself, yeah, that's awesome, but what if I didn't want to shoot in 24 frames a second? What if I didn't want to shoot in 30 frames a second? What if I'm in Europe? What if I want to shoot some PAL to be able to deliver it to somebody that's displaying PAL? Well, this camera, like a few others that are extremely helpful, has that feature. So here we are. Video system. Right now I'm in NTSC, but if I wanted to, I could use my little thumb wheel, highlight that, switch it over to PAL, and you'll notice that when I switch to PAL and come back to my movie recording size, now I can be in 25 or 50 frames a second. That's pretty awesome. But once again, this is our rental unit. Most of the folks that rent this camera from us like to shoot in NTSC, so if you'll just give me a quick second, I got to get it back into NTSC mode. There we go. All right. This concludes our camera operations portion of the segment. I'm sure if you got, oh, no, yes?
One question.
One question from the internet. What do we got?
Well,
Can you switch it over to the chat room for me?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes.
They would like to know, and let me find the question 1 second, are you able to do fast pans? Is there an interlacing issue, or does it work no problem?
Okay, an excellent question. Can you do fast pans? So the answer is yes, you can do a fast pan. Is there an interlacing problem? Well, we've been shooting mostly in progressive, 30p and 24p. So just like on a, quote, real video camera, you're going to have a little bit of jitter in the pan because that's just what it looks like. That's just what it looks like when you're panning in progressive frame rates. So yes, you will have a little bit of an issue, but no more than you would in any other video camera. We cool there on the question? All right, great. Yeah, millions and billions of live internet viewers. If you have a question, please use the chat room and we'll be happy to answer it. All right? Okay. So one quick important thing to note that in 24p and 30p, you're actually in 2398, right? And 2997. So these are industry standard progressive frame rates. It's not like the old firmware version of the 5D where it was exactly 30 frames progressive. So they've got it, they've got it into the, SMPTE standard 2997 frame rate, which is pretty awesome. Okay. One other thing I'd like to show you actually before we move on from camera settings is how to go back and forth between shooting and playback because it's a little bit confusing. Unless you've used a Canon digital camera before. And if you have, it's actually very familiar. There's a button here, right there. We got Ricardo up? Yes. All right. So this little play button, I'm going to yank this cable so that we get our viewfinder back. Here we are in shooting mode, yeah? And if I were to hit this play button, now I'm in playback mode, okay? And I can use these two buttons here to sort of zoom out and see more of my clips at once. Scroll through my clips. If they've got a film strip here, that means it's a video. And if they don't, that means it's a photograph, okay? I can zoom back in, and I can actually zoom in further to one of these photos and move around, get an idea of what's up, right? If I wanted to get out of playback mode, if I wanted to go back to shooting mode, the way to make it happen is this play button. Now, I hit play again, I'm back in shooting mode. Luckily for us, let's get that ISO and white balance. There we go. Okay. Luckily for us, when we're in shooting, if we wanted to get an expanded feature, expanded focus, I can use the same zoom in, zoom out buttons from playback to crank it up. See? Now I can get an even tighter focus. Pretty awesome. See if I can get a more interesting shot in there. Tough to see that? Now I'm back out of expanded focus and I'm back in my regular camera mode. Pretty cool. Again, these features are very familiar if you've used before one of Canon's still photograph cameras, particularly the digital ones. Great, great. All right.